Hello, and welcome to the show. It is April 7th, 2024. I'm Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and we need to talk. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This morning, before we get into things, I realized it's 2024. I've been doing this for 7 years. That's kind of wild. And for those of you who have stuck around or just found me and are happy to watch the show, thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate it, and I'm happy to keep doing this. So I do want to make sure that I get the number out because we need to get some calls in the queue if this show is going to happen today. So let me get the phone number up. It is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Also, you could go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN to call. Either way, it's toll free. And I'm happy to talk, whether you're a believer or even if you're not a believer. I actually had a thought about what I kind of wanted to cover a little bit today. And it's kind of on the heels of the Easter conversations that we had last week. I saw people posting on social media, just kind of the regular stuff that I see when it comes to big holidays from atheists. People trying to manage expectations and have meaningful, productive conversations with family. And one of the accusations that I saw, and I see it all the time, but it really kind of made me think this week, is the accusation of how do atheists find meaning? And I think it's based in this assumption that a deity is the only way that meaning can be found, that it has to be provided by some, cosmic caregiver, some sky father needs to give you this object morality or this objective meaning, and without it, we are somehow lesser. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, when it comes to talking about it. But I'd love to know what y'all think. What kind of meaning y'all are creating. We could go into the real nitty-gritty of how we create meaning, or what the value is in it, or how non-believers are possibly able to create objective meaning without some deity giving it to us. I know I have my thoughts, but I think those would be some fun conversations to have. That said, let me see here. Well, I still don't have any calls in the queue, and I know I need to get some, so let me give one more shout out for the phone number, and then I'm going to start looking into the comments for conversation topics. Doing my best, though. But first, here's the number. It is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. If you've been wanting to call in, today is the day. I would love to talk to you. That said, let's take a look at the comments. Let's see. Oh, people talking about finding meaning on Tinder. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing too much else. So I'm going to do my best to vamp for a little bit until we can get a caller in. One more time. Here's the number. 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. Either way, it is a toll-free number. We are paying for it so that you can give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. Okay. So here's my take on objective morality in the meantime. I'm just thinking about, it feels like this is just an ongoing conversation that we keep having, and I do my best to repeat it because I know that this might be the first time somebody is interacting with this idea, and I think it's incredibly important. I think it's important that people have an entry point and a way to engage with these things, even if it feels like it's the 10 millionth time that other people have heard it, because it's not that way for others. So really quickly, if we take a look at Kant, Kant was a believer, but Kant also had a way of talking about value and the way that we value ourselves and each other. He talked about means and ends, and how when it comes to things, objects, things that you own, those are all a means to an end, right? You get a car so that you can go to a place. You get a job so that you can earn money, and that money is used for the things that you want. You engage in certain activities because you want to get that joy or that endorphin high or whatever the case is. Those are all means to an end. But when you're dealing with other people, those people are ends unto themselves. And so what one ought not to do is you shouldn't treat people as vehicles for what you ultimately want. You should not treat people as means the same way you would treat a car or your job or something like that. And putting that value was an interesting idea. Now, he had more to it, but I think that that's something that I've definitely borrowed from. Treating people as means unto themselves, I think, is incredibly important. When it comes to the French philosophers, I think Jean-Paul Sartre was the one who really talked about creating meaning for yourself. Now, I'm personally an absurdist, but I do definitely see the value in what Sartre had to say. And what Sartre had to say was that we should be creating meaning for ourselves. We should be the ones who are deciding what those goals are, because ultimately we're the ones who are being held responsible for it. And when you choose the goals that you have in your life, then you are taking that on as a personal responsibility. You're no longer a passenger in the car. You're the driver. And in doing that, you have a more hands-on approach to making the world a better place around you. And I think that's really, really neat. And just as an aside, I know I've got a couple of callers on the line, which is fantastic. I'm going to wait for them to get queued to get through the call screening. But anyway, what Camus had to say was that if you are creating meaning for yourself, you're lying to yourself, because there is still never an objective truth, or never an objective meaning or value. And so he thought of it as a self-delusion. And I don't know. I guess that's something else that I would love to talk to people about. Is, do you think that it's valuable for us to delude ourselves, if we are deluding ourselves and saying that there is meaning, or that we're creating meaning? I think I have only so many people to bounce that up against, and that'd be a really fun conversation to have. Let's move to our first caller, who actually wants to talk a bit about this subject. I have Eve in New York. Eve, you're live on the show.
Eric.
Hello.
Hi,
I'm good. Thank you so much for calling in. I'm just getting your lower third dialed in so that we can get your name on the screen. In the meantime, what's on your mind?
I would just like to say that how I make meaning is just learning about different subjects. Like right now, I'm really into philosophical theories of morality and what is the best way to make ethical decisions.
Yeah. Oh, so this is like right up your alley.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So do you think that meaning and maybe like objective morals are something that we can create, or do you think that they're something that need to come from a deity?
Well, I think we could create subjective standards that we can apply objectively, if that makes sense.
It absolutely. So you think that we can create subjective standards that we can apply objectively?
Yeah.
Hmm. I think it's a very honest thing. Do you think that we can create objective standards?
Not the standards, no, because they necessarily have to come from our minds
Mhm.
or some kind of mind, I guess, because people seem to disagree a lot, and that says like that people have different opinions about what's moral.
I think you're absolutely right. And it definitely changes over time, right? As societies grow and their values change, you definitely see those moral views change with them, and the views of their gods change to accommodate. So I think you're right. Ooh, here's a question.
And oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
thank you. So Eve, if we're just looking at like different axioms that people live their lives by, are all axioms necessarily subjective?
Axioms are like the the standard.
Yeah. So like axioms are, if you've kind of read people saying, oh, maximizing human flourishing or minimizing suffering, right? Those are axioms that you're saying one ought to do. So instead of like how you think about things, your epistemology, or what things are currently, which is ontology, your axiology is that third tent pole of how you approach those things, right? The axiom that you're looking towards. Are you trying to maximize human well-being, or do you have some kind of other axiom that is taking you in a totally different direction?
I just kind of think we should maximize well-being for people.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Maybe animals too, but I'm not sure.
You know what? For me, I think that I don't know how it can't be or how it shouldn't be not for animals. So I think that we should be maximizing well-being for animals, but my own habits are not justifiable under that axiom, and that makes me deeply uncomfortable. And so because of that, I find myself saying the same thing. Maybe we should, when in actuality, I don't know how I shouldn't. But I guess I'm having trouble. I'm having some cognitive dissonance there. But otherwise, I think I'm on the same page as you.
Me too. I think it's hard to like make drastic changes to our lifestyles, especially when the majority of other people do it too, because we're social creatures.
Yeah.
Not that that makes it right, but it explains it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and we can see it repeated. I think honestly, that's one of the things that makes me at least feel exactly that way, right? As a social creature, you know, we find ourselves bumping up against that. How people talked about gay rights. Gosh, I was in high school when we were having those arguments about whether or not gay marriage should be legalized in the United States, and the the ethos around the subject itself was something that caused a lot of people to feel a lot more comfortable having really shitty opinions. And it wasn't until some major shifts happened that kind of social pressures pushed us the rest of the way. And once we kind of got that snowball effect of growing support for gay marriage, even though it's like that's a human right, like we should be able to love one another as we do, and have those rights. But just the ethos of that society at the time, our society at the time, it was heavily against in a way that was difficult for most people to follow. And I think I've seen that also similarly with slavery, when people talking about civil rights for ethnic minorities, how that was such an uphill climb. What's interesting is though, like we're talking about this on the heels of animal welfare. And I'm wondering how long or if we're going to see that kind of thing in our lifetime. Whether or not future generations are going to look back at us as monsters.
Yeah, maybe they...
Or maybe they'll look back at us as something as terrible for some reason we haven't even thought about. Right? Like, oh, could you believe back in those days they drove cars all by themselves? How dangerous is that? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just I guess I'm in a navel gazing mood. But Eve, I've got a couple more callers calling in. But is there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
Oh, no, thank you, Eric. Have a nice day.
Hey, Eve, thank you for saving my butt. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome.
You have a nice day, too. That was very sweet. Yay. All right. Before I move on to talk to John, I'm going to give the number one more time. We had another person fall out of the call queue. I hope that Jesse calls back, but if not, 412-SKEPGEN. That is 412-753-7436, or if you want to call online, and honestly the connection's a little better that way, tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. It is a longer link that I just used the link shortener for, so no worries about that. In the meantime, though, let's talk to John in Canada. John, you are live on the show. How's it going?
How are you, Eric? How are you?
I'm doing well. Let me get your volume up a little bit. You're coming in a little quiet. And I'm going to get your lower third in. While I type that in, though, talk to me. What's on your mind?
Well, we spoke before. Remember, I asked you why you're no longer Christian, and you gave me told me your story, and I told you I was agnostic, and I had my doubts.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Well, I'm still thinking, but at the top of the broadcast, you were asking about the purpose of life, and I was wondering, like, okay, I agree that you don't need a supernatural creature to tell you what to do with your life, but how exactly would you find a purpose of your life? Like, would you give yourself a purpose, or is it?
So, John,
is it your vocation, your spouse, your child?
Honestly, I would love for you to say that again. Is there any way that you can speak up a little louder into the receiver? I'm having trouble. You're coming in real quiet.
Okay. At the top of the broadcast, I heard you talking about the purpose of life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that you don't need a God for that. I agree with you. You don't need a supernatural being to give you a purpose. But how exactly do you give purpose? Like, is it living for your spouse, your job, a child, or?
How do you give purpose? That's a really good question. let's kind of compare it against what you're used to. So I know that you're still kind of in that questioning place in your life. How was purpose given to you as a believer?
Yeah, well, it's like being in the military. Your commanding officer gives you your marching orders.
Okay.
And you go do that. Like if he tells you to clean a tank, clean a tank. If he goes to fight a war, you go fight the war.
Okay, so I know that you're trying to speak up, and I can only do so much. So I'm actually going to try and repeat what you're saying back, so that the viewers can follow along. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you just said that it sounds that as a believer, it's kind of like when you're in the military, that you get marching orders, and that when the commanding officer tells you to go do the thing, you go and do the thing. And that's kind of how meaning is given in religion, or in your experience of religion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also following the Ten Commandments.
Also following the Ten Commandments. Ooh, do you want to get into the Ten Commandments for just a second?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. So, are the Ten Commandments actually, do the Ten Commandments actually have anything to do with morals? Do you think that they are moral statements?
Well, they can be, but the problem with the Ten Commandments is that they can be open for interpretation. For instance, let's take the Sixth Commandment, the killing one.
Well, actually,
it says, "Thou shalt not kill."
Well, John,
Yeah, go ahead.
let's go one by one. I'm here for it. Okay. So commandment number 1, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no other gods before me.
That's good. That's the very first one. That's correct. Yeah.
Right.
That means you can't worship any other god. Worship all.
Does that have anything to do with morals?
No, the tell you the truth, I think the very first moral should be thou shalt not kill. I don't know how that helps.
Well,
I don't know how worshiping.
Oh, you don't know? So you're saying you don't know how worshiping other gods has a moral component to it?
That's right.
Okay. So then the second commandment is, I believe it's to keep the Sabbath holy. Let me double check.
It's do not make a graven image.
Oh, thank you. Graven images. Yes. Okay. So graven images, does that have anything to do with the with morality?
Well, if you want to do a painting of God, I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem with that. The problem is that if you do that, it might place you in danger. Like for instance, in Muslims, if you do a picture of Muhammad, they will kill you, which doesn't make any sense.
I agree. So in both cases, you would probably say that graven images doesn't have anything to do with morality, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so far we're at 2 out of 10, which means 20% of the 10 commandments have nothing to do with morality. So let's go on to number 3. Thou shalt not take the name of thy Lord God in vain. Does that have anything to do with morality?
I don't think so, no.
I don't either. Okay, how about number 4? Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy.
Oh, that means going to church just this Sunday. But then again, I don't know why you need church in the first place. If you really believe in God, you don't need a church.
Right, but also, like, are you immoral for not keeping the Sabbath?
No, I don't believe so.
Right. I honestly, that one's a funny one. That makes me think of Johnny Tremain, for those people who read Johnny Tremain. But yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Number 5, honor thy father and mother.
Well, if your mother and father take care of you, you have to give them the proper respect. Only if they've earned.
Yeah, so I'm going to repeat that so people can hear that. So you're saying that only if that parent has earned that that honor should you honor them, right? Because there are some really crappy parents out there, right?
Just because someone sires you doesn't mean that they're your parent.
Oh, I like that. Just because someone sires you doesn't mean that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So 5 out of 10, you and I were both in agreement. None of those have anything to do with morality.
The sixth one is
Well,
thou shalt not kill.
right. So sixth, thou shalt not kill. I'm right there with you. That feels like a moral
Yeah.
statement. It's also been in, Hammurabi's code, which predates the Ten Commandments. But yeah, no, not killing. Right there. Good. That's a good one. So we're at number 6 out of 10, and we've come to an agreement that one, we're good. Okay. How about number 7? Thou shalt not commit adultery.
What do you mean by adultery? Does that mean like having sex with someone as your wife? Is that what we're talking about?
So there are different definitions of adultery. Some people view adultery as infidelity. Others view adultery as sex outside of marriage. Like having sex before marriage, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So when it comes to like having sex before marriage or having sex with someone you're not married to, is that immoral?
Well, it depends on each person makes their own decision about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now that I wear the ring, but V and I have not officially like tied the knot. I act as if we're married, but we have not officially done that. So as far as the church is concerned, I am living in sin. Well, I'm living in sin in multiple ways as far as the church is concerned. But as far as that one is, then I think that could be considered adultery. Was that immoral of me?
Well, I'm not going to judge you, Eric.
Well, I appreciate that. But like, honestly, I don't think you could say that is an objective moral. I think that you could find use cases where, shitty behavior could be considered and move into the immoral territory. I think that if you have an agreement with somebody that you love and respect and you betray their trust and break that agreement, I would call that immoral, but that's not everything that falls under adultery. So maybe we can give that one a half a point. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Okay. So that's number 6. Number 7, thou shalt not steal.
Stealing is wrong.
Is it though? What if? Well, I mean, let's look at Jean Valjean, right? In Les Mis. Victor Hugo wrote a book called Les Mis, and in that book, the main character at the beginning, his wife and children were starving. This is during the French Revolution, and he stole a loaf of bread to feed his family, and he was jailed for it and taken from his starving family. Is the act of stealing that bread, would you consider that immoral?
Well, given the circumstance, I wouldn't say so.
Right. How about any time when it's needed, right? So like here in the United States, I don't know how it is in Canada, John, but here in the United States, baby formula is kept under lock and key because it is stolen so often, and it's a real big problem here.
Well, you have people actually stealing baby formula in the United States. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It is a big deal.
Oh, and why do you think that is? I'm just curious. Why are people stealing baby formula?
Because they can't afford it. Poverty. Lack of access to resources. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, I see where you're going at the same time.
Right.
But if we start letting everyone deal, where will it end? We have to resolve it.
I got you. So you're using a different axiom here. You're thinking that we should only do things that we would want everyone else to be able to do, right?
Well, we have to have some kind of control.
Sure. So what if I say that? What if I say that we should be creating a world where people have their necessities taken care of, and if you do not have the things that you need, I don't care if you steal. I'm totally okay with that.
But if we start, but how will we know if someone does have the thing that they need?
Well, I really don't think that I'm going to be the one who's administering tests, but that's okay. If somebody wants to game the system for baby formula, I think I'm okay with that. Honestly, I think I'm okay if my tax dollars subsidized that. In fact,
I have no problem with that.
oh, absolutely. In fact, I do hope, that my tax dollars are going to programs that are supposed to be there to help people feed their children. And so they don't. I'm sorry?
I just want to ask a question, just strictly out of curiosity. Are you in favor of socialism?
Out of curiosity, am I in favor of socialism? Well, in a lot of ways. I drive on public streets, that's socialist. I utilize the fire department if my house catches on fire, that's socialism. I went to public schools and I support public schools, that's socialism. I mean, we're using socialism in a ton of places. So I'm in support of those things. Are you?
Well, I'm looking for a system that works.
Well, and it does work with those kind of socialist things brought in. I mean, not as well as I want it to, but those are all socialist takes on things, right? I do pay taxes.
Okay.
They go towards helping the homeless. They go towards maintaining public roads that I use so that I can get from point A to point B. They go towards fire, police services, which is its own thing, but like all of those different things are socialist services.
I see.
Yeah.
You do realize there are a lot of socialist countries that are not in good shape.
A lot of what? Again, I'm sorry. I know that I'm asking you to really speak loud into the mic, but there's something that's causing you to come in really low.
Okay. But I just want to say that there are a lot of socialist countries that are not in good shape.
And I'll tell you right now, go to the South in the United States, and it's not in good shape either.
Do you say the South of the United States?
Yeah. I mean,
you really can't hear me?
I just barely. It sounded like you said that I need to realize that there are a lot of socialist countries that aren't doing great.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah, and I said that there are a lot of places here in the United States that aren't doing great either. Also, if you look at different indexes of happiness, of well-being, of wealth, distribution, things like that, countries that have more socialist policies tend to be happier, have less crime, have less gun violence, have lower rates of infant mortality, have lower rates of gun violence, have lower rates of just across the board. They live longer and they, on average, report higher degrees of happiness. So, I mean, that's just the facts.
Give me one example of such a country.
Norway, Sweden, the northern European countries, in particular, have pretty high socialist programs there and report higher happiness and all of those things that I said.
Oh, I see. Oh.
Yeah. So
back to the Ten Commandments.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we went far afield there, but I appreciate it. Okay, so next one. So thou shalt not steal. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
There's sometimes, I guess, when stealing is not okay, but it's not always a thing. I don't think that is a moral command. I think it's a situational command. So maybe we'll give that a half a point. I'll be generous.
Okay. So
Okay.
do I.
Okay.
Let's
So
go to 8. Thou shalt not
bear false witness
Thou
against thy
shalt
neighbor.
not. Yeah.
Okay.
That means no lying. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
You shouldn't
go
lie.
around deceiving one another, shall we?
Well, it depends. I think that I think there are white lies, and I think that there are a lot of useful lies, and I think that there are harmful lies. I'm not going to fault somebody for telling their partner, I think you look great today, even if they might not. right? I'm not going to fault a parent for telling their kid, hey, I think you can do better, even if they might not, you know? I can't fault somebody for hopefully trying to say, hey, I think we're going to make it, even if they don't. So,
If you're living in Nazi Germany and you're hiding Jews, and the Nazis ask, well, do you have any Jews in your house? You're obviously not going to say, they're right upstairs, even though that's the truth, right?
oh, chef's kiss, John. Mwah. I love that. I'm going to say that again so that people in the back can hear it. Right? If you lived in Nazi Germany, this is an example a lot of people go to. If you lived in Nazi Germany and you were hiding Jews in your home, and the Gestapo came to your house and said, you know, are you hiding anyone? And you said no, you lied. That's not a bad thing. So I think that in this case, bearing false witness, right, lying, is conditional. It depends.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'd give that a half a point, but I'll be as generous as possible and I'll give it a half a point anyway. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to our last commandment. Thou shalt not covet.
Yeah.
Don't be jealous.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that moral?
No, we shouldn't. Well, if we go by capitalism, that's how it works.
I agree. So if you're looking at the 10 Commandments, I think we would agree that even if we're being incredibly generous, we've got 2 altogether moral statements out of 10. I don't think that so when you said, oh, and the 10 Commandments as a basis for morality, I don't think the 10 Commandments are a good example at all, because I don't think most of them have anything to do with morality, and it sounds like you agree with me.
Yeah, I guess so.
I know, right?
But I've been, yeah. Yeah, but here's something I worked out for myself. You see, I think the 10 Commandments are like a guideline, but you have to take into account a person's motivation, the circumstance that they're in, and if they really do something wrong, remorse.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to repeat that so people can know what you said. You said that that we need to take into account people's motivations and the situation that they're in, right? Contextually, to be able to determine whether or not they're making a moral choice. And I absolutely agree with you.
For the motivation, for instance.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like also, I was going to say, a person's motivation, for instance, someone who kills, self-defense is way different than someone who kills because they want the insurance money.
Yeah, someone who kills for self-defense is very different from somebody who's killing because they want insurance money. I entirely agree. So even if that's the case, you're right. Thou shalt not kill. Yeah. Maybe that shouldn't even be a point. Maybe that should just be a half a point.
Yeah, so maybe it depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
People just kill all the time.
Yeah.
The whole point of war, killing.
So I know that you're questioning and you haven't made up your decision. You're not an atheist. You don't know if you consider yourself a religious person. You're kind of in that agnostic space. The fact that you're still working this out is great. But I think that at the end of this conversation, would you agree with me that the 10 Commandments is a very bad example of moral statements?
I'll say it's a starting point, but you also take it into context.
A starting point? I don't even know if it's a good starting point. Yeah. I think that's a pretty, like, you're running at a 1.5 out of 10. At 15% is a real bad grade. That's an F. That's beyond an F. That is getting credit for writing your name at the top of the paper.
Oh, okay.
You know?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. We should probably have much higher standards when it comes to starting points for talking about morality.
I did not take that into consideration. I really have a lot to think about now.
I hope you do. I hope you mull it over, and I hope you call me back.
I will.
I love that.
Well, have a good day, Eric.
You too, John. Take care.
Yeah.
All right, people who are watching, thank you for being patient when it came to the volume. I think John is a sweetheart, and I'm glad that John called. And I think that was absolutely worth the amount of time put into it because, heck yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on and talk to Jesse in New Jersey. Jesse.
Hello, Eric.
Hello, hello. Jesse,
Yeah.
while you talk to me, I'm just going to put your name in the lower third and get you dialed in here. Oh, and also you're much louder than our last caller, which is a good thing. I'm just going to bring your volume down a little bit. And while I type this in, what's on your mind? What did you want to talk about?
Oh, the meaning of life.
Oh, that's all?
Excuse me. Everyone seems to think, the meaning of life like it's some sort of big, spooky, mystical thing. And I'm just like, it's so simple.
Really?
It's like, yeah. It's like the meaning of life is whatever you make it. That's basically cut and dry. Whatever you want it to be.
So it sounds like you're saying that the meaning of life can only ever be subjective.
Yes. Well, yeah, yeah, basically.
So is there?
I mean,
is there any?
I'm sure there are other ways.
Is there any overall?
Sorry,
No, go ahead. Well, there's a delay, and so I don't mean to be speaking over you. I apologize.
No, the delay confuses the hell out of me. It really does. I mean, I'm sure you could. I don't know, but I think that the meaning of life is, well, yeah, is pretty much subjective.
I agree. I think that makes a lot of people very uncomfortable. Most of the time when I'm talking to believers, they go straight to Nazis. And it's a tough place to... It's tough to create a space for nuance in those conversations. And so I'm glad to have these conversations every once in a while because I feel like we can delve into the nuance just a little bit more and contextualize that in a way that feels more grounded, right? And it is a scary thing, it's easy to say, meaning and value is whatever you make it to be. But when you're sold on a bill of goods, that is, if you're told you're going to win the lottery next week and you don't, even if you never were going to, you're still going to feel like you lost something, and if you're asking the question, why are we on this rock in the first place? Why am I going through all of this anxiety? Why are these bad things happening in my life? It feels good to be told that it's part of some greater master plan that is going to lead to your overall joy. And if anything, that when you die, you're going to go somewhere where you're going to be rewarded for your efforts. All of those things, when it's sold to somebody, feels really good. And so when it gets taken away, right, when you lose that, the idea of creating it for yourself feels hollow to a lot of people. I know it felt hollow to me when I left my religion. And so...
Well, then you got to ask yourself, is there any truth to that?
No, I agree, but it still hurts.
Oh, I'm not denying that.
Yeah. So...
But that's the bottom line is the truth.
It is.
It's kind of...
Well, and,
and it's like...
Go ahead.
Well, it's like I used to really be a firm believer in the whole, like, life after death thing. And it's like, you see the light at the end of the tunnel. And, I always thought that there's got to be something to that. And then I was presented with the scientific evidence. And I was crestfallen. I was like, oh, my God, this is like... And it was like I was so disappointed. But I mean, I couldn't deny it. It was just like right there in black and white.
Yeah.
There's the scientific evidence. And it was just like, I wanted to believe in it so bad. Okay. And I did for so long. But the thing is, I was faced with facts. And I was just like, oh, geez, it's like I have to switch my whole view on this around. And it's just like, I was just faced with facts, and I just didn't have a choice. No matter how much I'd wanted to believe, no matter how long I believed in this thing, and I was faced with facts. I was just like, I couldn't anymore. I didn't have a choice.
Oh, so I don't know how long you've watched my content, but I'll tell you, my freshman year.
Oh, I've watched you ever since day one of Talk Heathen.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was so cringy. Oh no. Well, I appreciate it, Jesse. So then I'm not saying this for you. Then I'll say it for people who are watching. When I was a freshman in high school, I remember my first period class. I had science, and a few months in, the topic of evolution came up. And the teacher said, we're going to be talking about evolution. Does anyone have any questions? And I raised my hand, and I had my God's not dead moment. Right?
Okay.
I stood up from my desk and I said, I believe in God, and I don't believe in that. And it was so cringy. It was so cringy.
Oh, God.
So I don't know how much I've changed that in my memory as I've thought back about it, but in my mind's eye, it was and people clapped, and it was it was so,
oh jeez,
it was so bad. I think about it and I just want I just want to
people clapping.
The
people clapping.
Yeah.
The people clapping to me is more cringy.
I just want to crawl under a rock every time I think about it. But when it comes to being faced with reality, whether you like it or not, it's going to put up a fight. I know that I did, and it took me a while, but you're absolutely right. When it comes to being faced with the evidence, it's very, very hard to deny it when it's right in front of you.
Well, I couldn't put up a fight. That was the whole thing. I mean, I wanted to, but at the same time, so that was the whole thing. It was just I wanted to, but I couldn't. And it was just sort of I just kind of felt I felt like I'd just been so totally defeated. And it was but that's the whole thing with me.
Yeah.
It's I want to put up a fight, but I just kind of was somebody just took my gloves away.
That's a great example. Yeah, you're fishing and somebody took the pole. You're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. I think it's really, really important for us to have this real frank talk, because I think that there are a lot of people who are they're deconverting. They're in this process of questioning their, reality. And I see so many atheists online who very confidently come in and just, here's how it is. And there's not room for talking about the problems that we faced when it came to it. And because of that, gosh, I remember in my own deconversion, I did not have that. And when I did experience seeing atheists online, it was so confident that I thought, oh, I'm not like them at all. And so I think it's really, really important that we share our experiences like this so that people can say, hey, maybe what I'm experiencing is normal.
Yeah.
So I really, really value that. I know that we kind of went off on a tangent, but I seriously value this tangent. Yeah. That uncomfortability and fighting against, against reality when it's staring you in the face is something on the other side.
I mean, it's kind of,
go ahead.
It's kind of I'm not fool. I'm going to face facts. I'm not going to fool myself, and it's just sort of that's the type that I've always been. And it's so when I had to face the facts, I'm I want to fight against it, but I just can't.
So what's funny is I feel like that's based, because we were talking about axioms in an earlier call. I kind of want to tie this back to that. That I feel like that being faced with the facts and being how can I argue with something that's right in front of me? I feel like that is...
It's demonstrable.
It is, but it's based in an axiom. And the axiom is that you want to know as many true things and as few false things, or that, or you want to follow the truth wherever it may lead you, right? You don't want to delude yourself. Those are all axioms. Those are oughts that you have taken in. And I remember in my church, there was a competing axiom. and the competing axiom was having faith regardless of the evidence.
Okay.
And so to look at the evidence and say, I still disagree, was actually viewed as a good thing.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that, and that's what was frustrating the hell out of me.
I'm right there with you. There's a why am I forgetting his name? Kierkegaard. If you want to like look into the details on that and how, someone might create how Christians or believers have created this axiom of viewing, believing regardless of the evidence in front of them. If you ever want to get more info there, check out Kierkegaard.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I've heard the name before.
Yeah, he's the one who responded to nihilism with this idea of, the best version of yourself, the best version of a Christian is going to be somebody who believes anyway, regardless. I think it's a really interesting read. And it might give you a little bit more context behind that, because otherwise I think that we're kind of going in a circle there, but like, yeah. The question is, how do we promote the axiom of wanting to know true things? How do we promote that in opposition to that kind of Kierkegaardian axiom? I feel like the way that has worked best for me is leading by example, right? I have friends, there are people who I know who are believers, and in my experiences with them, anytime that we want to explore something, we hear something in the news or whatever, I demonstrate to them that I want to know what is true, not what's going to make me feel good. And if I need to shift my understanding of the world because that's where the evidence is taking me, then that's the better thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking at you, but I think that that's hopefully useful for the viewers.
Okay. Good enough.
Yeah. Hey, Jesse, I really appreciate you. And this has been fun. Thank you for like leveling with me and bantering.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Yeah, I wasn't even gonna call in, but then I heard what you were talking about. I'm like, oh my God, that's it. I got to call.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I love it. I'm kind of in a place where I need to get more religious callers. So there are some things that I really want to do to kind of get the ball rolling on that. And so I started picking topics that I think would be really fun to talk about. And the fact that you saw that and were like, yes, I want to call in, validates so much for me. Thank you for that.
Cool. Well, you're very welcome. Well, thank you. And I love this show. It's a lot calmer than the shows I watch. Sunday's my day where I don't want to talk to anyone. So I got these call-in shows all day long. And
well, hopefully,
I really, really appreciate this. This one starts it off. So and I love it. I absolutely love it.
I'm very, very grateful that I get to be a part of your day, and hopefully, this is the kind of attitude that goes well with a morning coffee. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. You too.
Will do. Take care, Jesse.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye. That was very sweet. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Phenomenology. Oh, you. Okay. So philosophically, hold on to that while I get my brain ready for phenomenology. In the meantime, though, let's talk to Stephen in Pennsylvania. Stephen, you are live. How are you doing?
I'm good, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing. Oh, you sound so clear.
Yes, it's the beauty of technology. Where I'm calling you over the internet versus the phone.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get your lower third in so that we can get your name up on the screen. In the meantime, though, while I do that, talk to me. What's on your mind?
So I saw your topic and how do atheists find meaning and all that good stuff. And it occurred to me what I'm doing and what I've complimented you on before, if my voice sounds familiar. I used to be Stephen AZ, and now I'm Stephen PA because I moved across the country. And so I'm in, just to give the viewers a background. So I'm in a same-sex marriage with a straight person. I am, however, not straight. So we're de facto polyamory. It's kind of, I am trying to figure it all out, what it actually means. But what I have found that it means in my very rural community is that they are awfully confused as well. And I'm an atheist. My husband is somewhat deconverting. I let him talk about it when he wants to talk about it. I don't push him in a particular direction, which seems to be my evil plan. So it seems to be working.
But how dare you not want to influence their actions?
Well, when stuff comes up, like I'm a cultural Christian, so I love cultural Catholic, I should say, because I'm not cuckoo. But I love Christmas. Because I love giving gifts and that whole family-oriented thing. And now I have stepchildren, so it's very exciting for me. And I love Easter because I like to bake a ham. That's really what it is that I get to have ham for Easter. So,
Stephen,
that's pretty much it for me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you just sound like you would be the coolest stepdad. I love that.
So far, so good. They seem to like me. So, and they're grown. My stepdaughter is 25 and my stepson is 22 and graduating from college in May from the college that I went to. So I get to go back as a parent, which is just making my brain melt, but that's a whole other story for my therapist. But anyway, so my husband has been involved in the theater community here long before I moved here. And I just did my first show at the community theater. And we also got married in that theater last July. And the locals knew he was straight, or they assumed he was straight and got very confused when he was marrying me. But all of the ones with LGBT kids brought their kids to the wedding because they wanted to show them, look, this can be your future. You're part of the community. People love you. We love, my husband, and we're going to love Steve, and it's all going to be wonderful. And, and as going through the play that I was just in and getting to know my castmates and everything, they're asking, how did you meet your husband? How long have you been together? And it's like, well, it's not quite what you think it is. So we're sort of this whole non-traditional thing. The reason I say all of that up front is that generally speaking, we are very community oriented.
Mm-hmm.
We're very supportive of other actors in our community, our friends in the community, their children when they appear in whatever school play they're doing or whatever, we show up. And that has, not that that's like we're buying everybody's affection, but it's the idea that we're here. All right, we're here, we're queer, get used to it. Okay. But we're here and we're part of this.
Yeah. And
we're good people, and we give back to the community, and we do, local charities and things like that. And I've not lived in a rural area before, so I get confused frequently. In fact, the other night we almost hit a horse on the way home from a play.
Oh,
there
that's
was an
one of the
Amish
Pennsylvania by an
Amish
Amish
cart in front of us.
That is one of the most Pennsylvania things I've ever heard.
Well, it was bizarre, because they don't wear headlights or anything, and you really have to listen, and it was just a whole thing. But anyway, we're fine. But, we drive past the churches, and there's a lot of churches around us. And one of them is having a drive-through chicken barbecue. I don't even know how they hook up a drive-through window at the church, but okay. And then there was another church that was having a community dinner, and I thought, well, why are they publicizing that? Certainly the people in the church know they're doing that. And my husband says, no, that's for us. And I said, what do you mean it's for us? And he said, well, they're inviting the community. I said, oh, so we can go there for free dinner. And he said, yeah, that's the idea, to get you in the door. I said, I never realized that. I thought it was just their little thing and they're promoting it to their own people. So even in the middle of nowhere, they're like, let's try and get more butts in the seats. And there's a bunch of churches around us, but generally speaking, because my town is so small, when I go to the supermarket or I go to the pharmacy or whatever, they remember me the second and third time I'm there because I'm the nice guy who gets this prescription, or I'm the nice guy who buys these vegetables, or whatever it is. And if they ask questions or whatever it is, we're not, trying to convert anybody. We're not doing anything but living our lives as good people. We're not stealing from people. We're not cheating people. We're not suing people for burning trash on their property or whatever they're doing over here, because there's a lot of weird shit going on. Oh, pardon my language, but there's a lot of weird stuff sometimes. But we just kind of portray ourselves as who we are.
Yeah.
And, and particularly with the community that I'm involved with the theater and the ancillary groups that come off of that, they trust us around their kids. And I say that because as an atheist, that's not always the case, that they're afraid of what I might say or what I might do. And then I'm LGBT on top of it. And they watch Fox News and they don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But if you just go out there and you're just yourself and the community gets to know you for who you are, all of that other stuff kind of falls away. And when you do get to the conversations about religion, sexuality, politics, what have you, they already know where your heart is at and where you're coming from, that they're not automatically turned off, which I've also found terribly interesting, because I have had extended conversations. And through that, there have been people that I've met who are ex-Mormons who moved to this area. Number of families like that are just, it's just stunning how many I've run into, considering I'm nowhere near a Mormon enclave. And, and I've met Amish people that are lovely and Mennonites that are lovely and all of these other religious subgroups in the region. And we have these conversations. And even when we walk away and say, I don't agree with your position, but I still like you. And that's really what's most important at the end of the day. And I know I've complimented you on this before because, frankly, I haven't heard you yell at anybody yet. I know you said you've done it, and I'll trust you. But every time I listen to you...
a simple Google search, I promise. It'll come up.
Yes. Well, it's not like secular rarity where all of his thumbnails are him smiling and then you play the video and he's yelling at somebody. But that's what I get a kick out of. But, but I said this to you and V, that the
Dude,
fact that...
secular rarity is listening.
Well, good to Elliot. Hello.
Elliot.
Well, I said this to him on the Discord chat a while back as well. It's the same thing. It just makes me laugh because he has this great big smile and looks so cheerful. And he's like, you are a bleep and a bleep, and you don't know what the bleep you're talking about. And I just get the biggest kick out of that. But anyway,
let's talk about that in Discord because so for people who don't know, Elliot Secular Rarity is call screening for us and has been for a while now. Has been a supporter of the show and of me and V personally, as just a friend and a good person for a very, very long time. And I think that's really, really funny. Yeah, let's pick this up so that Elliot can join us.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to say, because I said this to you and V as well, and I miss V. I hope they are doing well.
They slept in. I could hear them making coffee before the show was starting. But they are kicking butt. On kind of a personal note on the side, I recently quit my job in the corporate world doing video and podcast stuff, and have moved into picking up contract work and doing coaching and consulting when it comes to people who are starting their own stuff. And V has been supporting us in a big way, and I'm really, really, really appreciative. We're doing good.
Well, that's fantastic. And now that I know that, I may be contacting you myself, because you have suggested in the past that I do my own show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's been discussion on my side of that. My husband isn't thrilled about it, but other people are.
Why
but
not?
We'll see how it goes.
Go ahead.
It's very weird. Not that we're going to make this all about my relationship, but he's very doting and very sweet. And for being a straight man involved with a non-straight man. So basically what I'm saying to your audience is we don't have sex. We do everything else, but we don't have sex. But he can be very jealous about how much time other people get of mine. And he ebbs and flows. Most of the time he's okay, but sometimes he's like, you're spending a lot of time on this. And I'm like, well, what else do I have to do? It's what difference does it make to you? I don't stop you. Anyway, again, for our therapist, not for you. But it's interesting because we're still figuring a lot of things out. And people have said to me, because basically, so you get the whole story, I met him right before I started college, which in the case of many of you, it was before you were born. So I've known him all of my adult life and then some, which right now we're at 36 years that I've known him.
Oh my God.
So when people say, how long have you been together? It's like, well, we're not romantic in the way that you think of it.
Yeah.
We decided to get married a few years ago, and we finally did it last year. And it's because we love each other more than anybody else in the world. And that is true. And we wanted to be each other's family. And that is true. We're not turned on by each other's genitals. That's just kind of the end of it there. So we're allowed to go outside of our relationship. I was listening to your 10 Commandments discussion about what adultery is. Mm-hmm. And we're not monogamous in that sense because we can't really be. So it's,
I'm right there with you.
Go ahead.
I'm right there with you when it comes to ethical non-monogamy. And really I hope that you were able to pick up that my definition of adultery would be breaking the contract that you've agreed on with your significant other.
Yes, exactly. And it's not to, dredge all of that whole conversation up again, but with all of the commandments that are considered moral, you can find a loophole. You can find something where, well, in this situation, it would be ethically okay because of X, whether it's any of them, and some of them are more murky than others, obviously, but the ones that seem really clear, you can still find loopholes for.
Yeah.
I loved the Nazi point about lying about hiding people. Well, that's a good ethical, moral thing to do. So, but anyway.
And John volunteered the murder one.
Pardon?
John volunteered that one and the one about murder being, murder in self-defense. I've got to tell you that, right on it. Yeah.
I've got very high hopes for the young man. So,
I do too. I noticed in the comments people were saying that he's banned on other shows. So what I think it is I think you have an example of someone who's taking a long time. And there are a lot of people who are on our side of things who are non-believers who take a look at that pacing and go, are they really trying? And I know that I was a stubborn mule when it came to growing personally. And so I think that's probably why I'm extra patient. But anyway, I'm sorry. I know that we're going far afield.
I think and to that point, I'll just say, I think what all of us non-believers have to remember, and even believers will accept this, I think, it's a scary thing. Particularly, I've spoken with the Mormons around me, and, it's just as all pervasive. I mean, it's your family, it's your friends, it's the schools you went to, it's all kinds of things that you can get mixed up in that you lose everything. And we are social creatures. Whatever you think about evolution or not, I think everyone can accept that we all want to be part of a society and part of a community, whatever that community may be. And if we are faced with these questions, that will mean that if our questions are validated, or the fact that we're questioning at all in some cases, that we're going to lose these communities. That's a really hard thing. And with the Mormons that I've met who've left their church, my first question is always, what is your relationship like with your family now? And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking what people go through, and it's just so unfair.
I agree. I think that might not be the case for John, because if John's experience is anything like what my experience was, I had been dropped by my church long before I realized I wasn't a Christian anymore, because just the pursuit of asking those questions caused me to be ostracized. And so that may not be the case for John, but that doesn't invalidate your statement. But that said, I know that I've got a couple of other callers. overall, you wanted to talk about how living your morals and ethics as a secular humanist and being an example for those around you can be something that can create positive impacts on others who maybe haven't experienced people like you. And I think that you're doing a really great job of it. And I'm really grateful.
Thank you. And I've given you and V the same compliment in the past, that the way that you present yourselves and the fact that you're open to discussing things I know you say you're not confrontational, but you're gentle about it until somebody is not gentle with you. And I appreciate that as well. And so, yeah. So we're happy all around, you and me and with each other. So this is great. So I'll be in touch, and I'll try and be on Discord.
Hey, tell your husband I said hi, and I think y'all are amazing. I honestly, I think that I've talked to, and I know we're I'm sorry. One last thing. You got me on it. Steven, this is your fault. But one last thing is, I have a good number of friends who are ace, or aromantic, or and I feel like there is a spectrum of sexuality that people don't interact with enough to give the validation that it deserves. And so your relationship, I think, is one that I hope as many people are able to see, because it's valuable to a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, you take care of yourself. My best to V, and I'll be listening for the rest of the day and into the future, and I'll try and catch you on Discord.
Appreciate you, Stephen. I'll see you there.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, y'all, I know that this has not been a confrontational episode, but I am loving it. This feels like a hug in a way that I could not ask for better. All right, Philosophistry. Oh my goodness, what are you doing to me? Hey. Hello?
Whoops, sorry about that.
No worries. Hello.
What doing to you? I'm messing with you a little bit.
I'm ready. Okay. I'm trying to get your name properly lined up. So let me do that. But in the meantime, what do you want to talk about today?
Things that only exist phenomenologically and can't be detected any other way in the noumenal world aren't real.
All right. Let's do this.
That's the assertion that I am making.
Okay, so let's get some definitions so that the audience can follow with us. What is phenomenology? What is the noumenal world? And how are they different?
Okay, so phenomenologically would be like in your head, right? So something that's translated to your perception. You feel it, you see it, you have an idea of it in your head. And the noumenal world would be the thing itself. Like, for instance, I don't have to be able to see or feel like a rock outside of my home to know that there's probably a rock outside of my home. That rock still exists. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be my definitions. Would you like to change the terms that we use, or would you like to change the definitions that we use?
No, I think that's pretty good. So let me ask you. Let's say that you are thinking about a memory, right? You're reminiscing about something. Would you say that that act of reminiscing has a correlation to synapses firing in your brain?
I would.
So would that be a noumenal analog to the phenomenology of what you're experiencing?
It would not.
Why not?
Because it's information.
But everything you get is information. It sounds like a distinction that would cut everything out, wouldn't it? Like, help me out with that.
Nope. So the places where it is stored in your brain are definitely noumenal. They could be measured. They could be seen. They could be potentially manipulated, right? So, like, if a brain surgeon went in and messed with your brain, they could be manipulated. But what you're storing is the information of that representation. So those items are real, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like the way that the rock. So after I pick up a rock, right?
Mhm.
And I flip it around and I hold it in my hand and I rub my fingers over it. I feel its texture. I see its shape. I break it open. I see what the inside is. Me holding the memory of doing that does not make two rocks.
It does not. So,
But I have all of the information of that rock. So what I do have is a memory of that rock stored in synapses in my brain.
Mhm.
I do not have two rocks, though.
Right. And I think that we can agree that accessing a memory is different from the experience of the thing. But I think that accessing that memory is also taking place in the noumenal world. I don't think it's non-existent. I guess maybe what I'm having trouble with is the idea that a phenomenological thing that that can't be detected in the noumenal world, because that's the way it's stated in the synopsis, or the, you know what I mean, the synopsis. There we go.
Correct.
In the call screening thing is laid out. I feel like accessing that memory is still a physical thing that's taking place, and that is real.
It is a physical thing that's taking place, but does having that, okay, so let's say you went on a walk with V one day next to a pond, right?
Okay, sure.
You can recall the pond and you can recall V. When you recall them, are you actually recalling them? Does it create a new instance of them? Or are you recalling a memory? Is the memory the physical thing that exists?
I think that the corresponding places in your brain that are being accessed are the physical thing that exists. I'll give you an example, right? So if I watch a movie, right? V and I watched Dune 2 last week. Late to the party. Very late to the party. I get it. But us watching that movie is not us experiencing life on Arrakis, right? We are accessing information that happened earlier and through editing and CGI and all of that stuff. But that does not make our having watched that movie less real. It just means that we're watching a movie and not experiencing what's going on in the movie. In the same way, I think that when we remember a thing, we're remembering it and we're not doing that thing again.
Right.
But that doesn't make us watching a movie not real. It just makes it a different thing, right? A different
The DVD
real
is
thing.
real, the bits are real, the frames are real, all of that stuff is real. The image on the screen is real. Right?
In the same way that our synapses are real and the places in your brain that those things are stored are real.
But those items would be detectable in the noumenal world.
Absolutely.
The actual memory, as you recall, the memory can be detected in the real world because the way that memories are stored, I forget, maybe somebody in the chat could help me out. It's like your brain actually grows new neurons to store memories.
It creates new connections, I believe. But I honestly, I think at that point, when it comes to like how the brain works, we're very quickly going to run into a place where I'm ignorant and I'm going to be talking out of my butt. So I'm just being careful stepping into this place.
Yeah, no, I get it. We're gonna. I'm the exact same way, but I do understand that when the brain stores memories, they're actually it's not bits like on a CD, but there's a similar thing happening in our brain that can be measured, right? So that is physical. That is something that is actually happening. In the noumenal world. So memories do exist in the noumenal world. We just have the hardware and software to replay them.
Okay, so maybe we need a different example. Memories aren't a good example of this. Can you give me an example of something that exists phenomenologically but cannot be detected in the noumenal world?
God.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I kind of agree. I feel like there are different types of existence. I feel like I brought up Johnny Tremaine earlier. I feel like Johnny Tremaine exists as a character in a book. And I think that the God concept exists as a character in a book.
Yes.
But if we're talking about like a living sentient being who's an actor in the world, yeah, we would need to see any kind of noumenal evidence of it, right? It taking place for us to take it seriously. So I think I'm on the same page as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
that is a good. Okay, so is there anything that you think that I would disagree with, or that would run against that, or are we in agreement?
No. I called in with the premise, and I didn't know if we were going to have a debate or if you would come to agreement. But you said that if I call in the future, I should call in with a little more rigorous philosophical concepts. So
I was
this is my at that.
philosophically, I was licking my chops when I saw the subject. I love it. That's exactly what I wanted. I love it. No, that's good. I think that even if we're in agreement, at least people who are watching this conversation who haven't worked with terms like phenomenology, getting to interact with them, I think is really, really important. And I think that this is an accessible conversation. So I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Have a great day.
You too. I hope to see you in the Discord after show.
I'm actually going to go get food with somebody, so I'm not going to be there. But, well, maybe I am. It just depends on how quick this all happens. So.
Understood. Either way, have a good one. And thank you for joining. Thank you for calling.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye. I love that. And I keep mentioning the Discord after show. After every episode, I've been going onto the SKEPGEN Discord and just letting my hair down, taking off the jacket, and just having like a relaxing talk with people. And if you want to join us, you are absolutely free to. The link is in the description. And yeah, I would be happy to see you there. But before we do, we have a couple more callers that I would love to talk to. Let's start with Douglas in Idaho. Douglas, you are live.
Oh, hey, Eric. How you doing?
Doing well. I am just really enjoying the conversations today. What did you want to talk about?
Well, I think you were talking about purpose in life. So I thought I would kind of go down that road because I've read a few books from anthropologist Eric Becker.
Okay.
Had a kind of interesting perspective.
Okay.
So,
I'm definitely down.
I mean, as an atheist myself, it was kind of helpful for me once I became an atheist. So,
it sounds like you're going in and out, or like you might be kind of turning your head away from the mic, which is causing.
Oh, am I? Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Oh, it's so much.
Is that helpful? Is that better?
A million times better, actually.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm on the phone, so I'm not keeping it close enough to my mouth, I guess.
No worry. I appreciate it. You sound a whole lot better. Okay, so you want to give us a book suggestion? Because when it comes to meaning and purpose, there's a book by Ernest Becker that was really helpful for you. Does that sum it up?
Well, yeah, I think his first book was probably his Pulitzer Prize book was The Denial of Death that I read, but I went back and reread his other book called The Birth and Death and Meaning, which he's an anthropologist that went through trying to understand the human condition as far as trying to understand what meaning meant for human beings. And in his perspective, he kind of goes down the road of self-esteem and how we rely upon culture. And culture, whether it's religion or national culture or whatever culture you are involved in, to actually promote your self-esteem, which is what actually promotes value in your life and makes you feel important. It makes you feel like other people appreciate you.
Okay.
And then makes you feel like you're part of life, right?
So what are these two books called?
What was that?
What are the two books called? Denial of Death.
The Birth and Death and Meaning by Ernest Becker. And then he has The Denial of Death, also by Ernest Becker.
The Birth and Death.
And they're
Okay.
a meaning. Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to purchase the
Okay.
audiobooks and I'm going to listen to them.
Okay.
I have not read them, and that sounds like it's right up my alley. I would
Oh
be.
man, I think you'll love them.
The way you're
Yeah.
talking about it sounds like I would absolutely would. I hope that
Mm-hmm.
if this strikes a chord with people, that they read it too. And if Ernest says or does something that deserves some real conversation, then all the better.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm gonna leave it at that. I mean, if I can promote, I mean, I'm not like an earnest. I mean, I do like them because as an atheist, I think it gave me a little more understanding.
Hmm.
Not necessarily fix the problem, of course,
No, but
of meaning, but it helped me understand maybe this is what drives us, the human condition, a little more. And he was back in the 60s, and he died young, I think at the age of 49
oh my
of
gosh,
cancer before he even actually got his Pulitzer Prize for the denial of death. So Ernest Becker,
damn,
I'm impressed with his work. Yeah.
gone before
I mean, he
his
died at
time.
49. Yeah, 49 years old. And that was before his book, The Denial of Death, that won a Pulitzer Prize.
Wow,
He got that after he died,
posthumously.
which is messed up, right?
That is
anyhow, yeah.
all right.
And there's other atheists. I know there's other pronounced atheists that have read his work. I don't know necessarily what they think of it because they don't really talk about it a whole lot. I mean, some have, but I'd be curious what you think of it, Eric. I'm really, because I value your opinion. I mean, you've been, out of all the atheists that I see on the show, I have to say, and I'm not just saying this just to float your boat, but I do really appreciate how loving you are. Some people some really want to be more loved than being loving, and you come across more loving than wanting to be loved. And I appreciate that about you, Eric. It means a lot to me.
Douglas, that's really sweet of you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm interested. I'm going to listen to it with the thought of, wondering how much it may have influenced books like The Moral Landscape. I'll check it out.
I'm a huge Sam Harris fan too, so I've read that. It's just,
I
don't know. I think this touched me more. I think it seemed more scientific coming from an anthropologist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than coming from a neurologist.
I'm going to check it out and give me some time. But thank you for the book recommendation.
All right, Eric.
All right.
Love you, man. You take care.
Take care of yourself too. Thank you, Douglas.
Bye.
Very, very sweet. All right. I think I'm going to take one more call today before I move on to the Discord after show. Before I take that call, though, link is in the description. Also, if you like this show, consider hitting the subscribe button. If you haven't, like the show, leave a comment. All of those things pick up in the algorithm. If you want to support the show, consider going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. This last month, we are closing in on being able to make the show revenue neutral, which is a really big deal for me. So if you do want to support the show, I charge once per live show, and all of the other stuff that is extra does not get charged, but every little bit helps. So thank you for that. And if you can't, or you can't afford that, or whatever the case is, absolutely no pressure. I'm just glad you're here to be a part of the conversation. All right, let's take our next caller. Toby in Colorado, you are live. Oh, let me get Douglas's name off. Toby, how are you doing?
Eric, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm getting your name here on the lower third. In the meantime, what do you want to talk about?
Well, this is kind of a half-baked thought. I'm not sure the direction I really want to take it. I was kind of curious about, I'm an atheist myself, and I left a couple years ago, left a pretty okay paying job to go into teaching. And I teach high school now, and I kind of got pushed in / stumbled into teaching psychology so it's been a roller coaster trying to learn this stuff right ahead of the kids, and so it's been really meaningful, and it's kind of taken my life in a direction I didn't expect it. That said, I do wonder how much sacrifice I'm taking on with my mental health, because it's a tough job, and I wonder what kind of the nature of sacrifice is in order to have that in order to find meaning. So I guess we'll start there and see where it goes.
I think that it's interesting. I'm actually working on a project right now that has not come out for another channel that specifically has to do with sacrifice and meaning. And because of that, I don't want to take the thunder from the other person that I'm working with, because I'm helping them with their channel and their video. But as soon as it does come out, I will promote it. But in short, I think that making sacrifices for the things that you want to do make it more valuable. I do.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
the fact that you took a hit so that you can do something that you want to do, I think absolutely makes it more meaningful. And I think that as humans, that's something that we do. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I wonder, to throw kind of part of my thought process here is, I wonder if that's part of the nature or the necessity of sacrifice for religion, that you have to offload that sacrifice to make it feel better, or to take less of a hit on your mental health. And if atheists, I wonder, struggle from a mental health perspective more.
That's interesting. I feel like it's one less tool, potentially. I mean, but it's such an interesting phenomenon that I don't think that I have enough info to really engage with meaningfully. Because I see on TikTok people were in Ramadan, right? Muslims who are abstaining from eating during the day. And what a big sacrifice that is, right? To fast for such a long amount of time. And yet that is incredibly, it adds so much to their faith experience. And, you see that in Mormon churches, right? The whole idea of the Mormon mission, being sent out at 18 years old so that you can have doors slammed in your face for a year, how that kind of ties you closer to the church through the shared experience of rejection and all of that. And it having a better impact on people's well-being. I think it has an impact on their stress management and their anxiety management. But I don't know. I feel like that is a place for sociology that I don't feel equipped for. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know if that was helpful or useful.
Well, I'll be curious. No, it was, again, like I said, it was kind of half-baked thought, and I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to take it.
No,
but I'll be very curious to see what you're working on.
I can't wait to announce it, but once I do, you will absolutely know what I'm talking about. So
Great.
Stay tuned. But Toby, thank you for calling in. Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely, and send me my best.
Will do. Take care.
All right, you have a good one.
All right. With that said, I think that I'm going to move over to the Discord to just hang out with people, talk, and have a good time. I hope this has been as fun for you as it was for me. Again, if you like what the show does, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. you can get updates for when we're posting things. And honestly, it helps us get traction on YouTube. And if you're able to and you'd like to support the show, consider going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. It helps. And I really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining. This has been a meaningful episode. I feel like having an entire episode based around meaning and value and what we provide for others and ourselves, I think is a really, really potent topic. And I'm really grateful that y'all were able to join me for it. So thank you. And until next time, I'm Eric Murphy. And I'm glad we had this talk.